Alright, hello fellow goblins. Today we are going to be doing a Imperial stage. Let's see, what was the name called? Revenge of the Queen, A World Rejected. This is the 50 stamina one. All units do not have to be alive, so you can let one die. You can let it reset, but the key unit here you want is an exoskeleton row. This is for the extreme example of the water resistance and him doing thunder damage. We will need him. Well, you'll just need him, trust me. You cannot do this without one, and it is highly suggested you have two of them. Alright, so I will be stopping the video shortly to show you the units of what I have in this team, and I'll try to explain it really quickly of what I have. So, right here I have a row, but you can change them with another unit that's thunder. You need a healer. This is quite, self-explanatory. You need a second healer to heal that first one. This one I have Earth because I have nothing else better than him. And on the second run, I use her because of the thunder resistance. Alright, so what you saw there was the reset trick. You can do this whenever a unit dies. Just be sure that it's not a key unit. If it's a unit you do not need, it's completely fine. But in this stage, almost every unit is essential. So if one dies, you kind of want to reset. But if it's doable without it, like if you have a fire unit, you can let that fire unit die and it'll be fine. Unless it's your main character. Alright, so let's try that again. Here we go. Put everyone in position. Get the debuff off this time. Oh no. Okay, so debuff did not stick on the first time. This is why we have the ice resistance. And let's put the debuff back on again. Let's see if it will stick this time. Alright. So. And there we go. So now you should notice that her damage is, well, quite the limp noodle, which is something that we really need. Alright, so the two ads that spawn on the top and bottom, I just started juggling around my unit so that they can kill them, because the queen, she's preoccupied with my tank. So let's buff these guys up and kill the ads before they start to become a problem, which they honestly won't. So Earth stopped attacking, which means that unit up there is dead. I should move him back, but I am more concerned about getting my debuff to stick on the boss. You might know she's hitting like a truck now. Now it's on, she does, negligible damage. Alright, so move Earth back, get my row back to deal the added damage, and we can now speed this up. Since this is going to be a DPS check, if you can burst her down in time, or if she will just regen because you don't do enough damage. But we're going to cheat a little bit with our abilities. So, remember how I brought Falling Heavens? There it is. And she is at about 20% life right now. So I'll put my defenses up and get ready for this, since we put the Piercing Roar, and she is now hitting the 10% mark. So any attack beyond this part will now be a heal, and we don't want that heal to work. So her final attack and she is now going to do a heal. But she is now dead, and we win this pretty easy. Okay, so this time I changed up my team a little bit. Remember that Asue I had in the first part? She's now going to be used here. My role is now going to be the tank because I need the damage to be more sustainable. I need that quick damage because having Roll and Earth doing the damage is not a great idea. That is a very budget team. So having a Shark Roll doing the damage instead with the Piercing Roar is going to be much more helpful. Alright, so just putting it on him just for now, and let's just see how fast these fairies just get obliterated. And there we go. So, Roll here is just here for the execute. He is here for nothing else other than to tank and, well, be useful since he is quite useless in every other scenario. Oh, here I am stopping to see the damage from the lightning resistance down from Asue, and the damage Shark Roll does without it. So this one, we can kind of see 2,400 and 3,600, roughly a 50% damage increase. And then we stick an attack up, and he starts doing 4,600, 9,999. Alright, this is looking good. So, we want him to be on the boss at all times. If he is not on the boss, this is going to be a problem. Alright, so those two fairies that spawned on top and bottom, this setup is not good for those, so I spend a lot of time just juggling my units around to kill those two, because I want the boss to be dead without the fairies being up. They can stay up if you want, but I don't want them up. I want the boss to be down after the fairies. And let's begin the little dance of moving my units around and not dying and wasting precious minutes trying to kill them. And let's start. Alright, so now they're finally dead, and now I can get my units back into space and try and get this boss down. So right here, he's doing pretty meh damage, but I see that 2,000, put the debuff. That means my attack down is now on. Let's start bursting it down, and Falling Heavens, come on, stick. Alright, so the next is going to be a heal, but she will not be able to heal because she is slowed to a snail's pace. And we have our second victory in a row. So, you can see my units are not the best. This is by far a very underwhelming team. None of this I paid for. This is all from the shop and a reroll for the Peerless Oni Shogun roll. And, it's fine. But I really need a Thunder unit to replace him, or else it's gonna be hell. I'm not gonna farm this one any longer since it's too much of a hassle to do. And we get a little shard for our problems. Not worth the problem or, you know, the effort of doing this. Okay, so you might be finding there is a small pattern with how I form my teams. And in this image, I will be showing how she attacks and why I move my tank forward instead of moving it back or keeping it where he is. This one is because looking at the picture, you might notice, hey, where's my tank? And my healer is kind of covered. What's up with that? That is the attack range of her ability. So when she hits the target, which the blue square will be my tank, the red one will be everywhere she hits as well. You do not want any units to be here since they will also be frozen. So having your tank and first healer frozen is the only thing you want. If you have any other units that are frozen, this is not a good thing since your damage will go down and your chance of clearing it on time goes down. I believe that you will not have a chance of ever losing this from your units dying, but more of losing time. So you need that Shark Row to do his job. That's why he's sitting at the very top, because if you can see those little squares, he can just hit the boss, just on the nose. And Asue, right there, she can hit that same square 3 times and has a really high chance of applying her 50% thunder resistance down. So Shark Row will be doing 50% more damage, and that also stacks with the piercing roar, so this can easily get him to the limits of about 5,000 damage per hit. Times 3, that's 15,000. If he crits, that's an easy 30,000. My bad, couldn't do math right there. And you don't want your MC or your main character to be anywhere near unless you have the thunder attack equipment from the current event. But since that will be going, and I don't really believe that the MC is useful here, this is how the team setup should look like. You can move Seisa a little bit more to the back by 1 more square behind the tank or the healer, and it would still be fine. She's never going to get hit, so she's completely fine there. The main concern in this setup is trying to get the falling heavens to land, which if you're using IBR and you have the required passives, you have the evolutions, and you have the gear, this will not be a problem to land. The problem that will be you will face is landing the debuffs, the attack down and the dexterity or evasion down. Those two will be very hard to land for anybody, so trying to get those to land first is key priority. Okay, so running through the abilities, we will need 3 key abilities here. You can change them if there is something better at the time of this recording. These 3 abilities just have the best benefits for your team, and you kind of want to use this as much as you can, but I will just explain starting now. Alright, so when Godly Acceleration, this is quite an easy one. You need the action speed so that when you want to do her burst phase when she is around 10% life, she will be taking, obviously, more damage because you're attacking faster, and you will need this when you hit that marker. Alright, anti-hail coating. This one you need so that 1, your tank doesn't die, 2, your healer doesn't die, since the queen does ice damage. And since she does ice damage, this can be mitigated quite a bit by anti-hail coating. So you will need this for damage mitigation for your tank and your healer. So keep that in mind. Alright, Piercing Roar. This is a special one because this one is an attack boost. You can use magic if you have a magic team. I have a physical team, so I'm using Piercing Roar. I am not using the New Year's Rise since New Year's Rise is a vertical and my 2 damage units are in a cross. So New Year's Rise does do more damage or gives a bigger buff than Piercing Roar. However, it's only going to hit one of those units, so I use Piercing Roar instead of New Year's Rise. It's also, well, it's 100% uptime, and this is perfect because your Shark Row does thunder damage, and that thunder damage is not magical, it is physical, so this will essentially double his damage, which you need. Alright. Then we have Gravity Field. Some of you may or may not have this. This is one of the key factors of keeping your team alive before they get bursted down. If you don't put anti-hail coating on, Gravity Field is your next go-to debuff that you will put on the boss. The reason why you want this is because this says that it reduces physical damage. Well, so it happens that the queen does only physical damage. She does not do magical. And you will need this to reduce her damage by quite a bit. This is a 60 to 70% physical damage reduction. I forgot how much exactly. Thanks to the team on Crazy Lab in the Discord for finding out the exact percentages. Check them out, please. You will need this so that the queen does not just, yeet one of your tanks or healers. You kind of want her to not be, killing everybody in the first hit. This happens quite a bit on my first run, and you might notice that there's a small edit, and it's because, well, she kind of just annihilated my first healer due to me not putting gravity field in time. So instant 9,999 damage and instant reset. Thanks. Alright. So, next one is Stench. This is a good ability, but the problem is trying to get it to stick. So this one, you might notice I'm using the Imperial Blood Raider evolution. This is mainly because of the high dexterity he has. You can use the other SR evolutions. You can use an R plus evolution, but I use the IBR because, well, he just has higher dex, and you need this to stick. If this doesn't stick, your chances of gravity field and falling heavens will not stick. So this is essential, and this will indirectly boost your damage since now your units can hit even more. Alright. Falling Heavens. Now this one's a very strange one. You might be wondering, why am I taking an attack ability that is wind damage? Won't that be resisted? Well, same can be said for fire, but this one, we're not using it for the damage. We're using it for the insane effect it has. This one will essentially reduce her action speed to about reduce it by 80%. And this is insanely good when you are in the burst phase, because if she gets her first hit off when she is below 10%, so what I'm saying is that when she is reaching 10%, she will continue to do damage. But the moment she's under 10% life, her next attack will be the regeneration ability, which you do not want for her to do. But if you use this as she is hitting 10%, meaning she is in the middle of her attack ability, it will slow her attack as well as her next heal, since that is going to be a heal ability since she's now under 10% life. And you need this so that she can't do that. This one will last about 10 seconds, I believe. But this is quite enough, especially if you have a Thunder Exoskeleton Roll doing damage with the Piercing Roar. So this is quite essential. I do not know any other action speed down abilities, but if you do, please let me know, and we will test that out. But for now, Falling Heaven seems to be the best one that doesn't require a unit slot, since you do want, those unit slots to be damage dealers. Alright, next one, we have the 4 passives. This is kind of easy. Exaltation of the Bloodline. You want this one since it boosts the damage, physical damage, mind you, of your team by 50%. This is insanely useful since my entire team is physical damage only, and the only ones that doesn't benefit from this will be my healers, which my healers are not trying to do damage, they're trying to survive. Alright, Black Demon's Dignity. This one is a all stat reduction, I believe, for all enemy units. This one is very useful since, well, the queen has huge stats, and this reduces stats by a base amount. And since her base amount is super high, this is super useful. Alright. Giant King's Pressure. You might be wondering, well, I have Demon King's, or the Black Demon's Dignity. Why do I need Giant King's Pressure? This one reduces the action speed of the boss. This one, I would be using something else, but I kind of forgot, and I don't remember if I do use the other passives, but I do know that I use this one for the time being. Alright. Then we have Requiem for the Dead. You might be wondering, okay, well, those 3 abilities are pretty good. Why do I need this one? This one reduces the damage, defense, and magic of the target. And the reason why we need this is to reduce the defense and to reduce their damage. This reduces it by about 10 to 15%, and this is quite helpful in, well, keeping your team alive. If you don't want to get yeeted off the map and straight back back by 50 stamina, you kind of want this, as well as, gravity field. Alright, that's enough with the ability explanation, and let's continue on.